Hey Raiders, Jacko here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Now today I wanted to go into the champion that I feel is the most important champion for a free-to-play player. And that is none other than our Naked Barbarian Nymph, War Maiden. Now, there are several reasons why War Maiden is so vital to a free-to-play account. Starting out with her kit. So why don't we go over that first, and then we'll go into a few other aspects of why she is vitally important for any free-to-play player. So to start off with, on her A1, we have attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of placing the weak version, 2.5% of poison debuff for one turn. That's ferocious attack. It's a nice little extra poison if you're going into clan boss or dragon or things along those lines, but not exceptional. On her A2, attacks one enemy, places a 50% increase attack buff on this champion, and places an extra hit if this attack is critical. The extra hit cannot be critical. It's sad that they had to add in that extra hit can't be critical, or this would actually be a pretty nice skill. As it is, it's okay if you can get her crit rate up high enough when building her. But since that's not the focus of her build, we're not going to be stressing the crit rate at this level of the game. Where she comes in, what her real bread and butter and her most importance is in her A3, Crumbling Blast. Attacks all attacks all enemy, has a 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased debuff for 2 turns. When booked out, this is 100% chance and on a 3-turn cooldown. That is incredible. She is the only rare champion that does the decreased defense 100% of the time, with the possible exception of the brand new champions that came out, as I haven't reviewed them in depth yet. It's coming. It really is. So, this is the number one reason War Maiden is so vitally important. Having that decreased defense is going to make your clan boss runs do dramatically more damage. They're going to make your dungeon runs more successful because you'll be able to clear the waves and the boss that much faster. She is going to be a vital part of your group. The second reason, and probably the one that's most entertaining and most important for a free-to-play player, is that our War Maiden here is completely farmable. See, right here, War Maiden. If you come to the Deadlands in the campaign on any difficulty and just farm the Deadlands, you can get War Maiden as a rare drop. Not only can you get her as a champion, but you can keep farming the Deadlands to use duplicates of her as books to fully book her out. Which means, for a free-to-play player, she is completely resource-free. And that's a wonderful thing. Absolutely wonderful. So, how do we build our War Maidens? First of all, she is a champion that we want to book out, not only because it's easy by just farming the Deadlands, but because we want this Crumbling Blast at 100% and a 3-turn cooldown. That is very important. So we are going to book her out. She is very important on that. In terms of artifacts, we have 2 main goals. One is that she's landing that decreased defense as much as possible. And 2, we want to keep her alive. So my recommendation is to go with your pretty typical setup. In this case, I have an attack chest plate. The reason for this is because I'm using her in arena, and she doesn't need to survive that much since it's a speed farming team. However, if I'm using her anywhere else, I would much prefer this to be a defense or an HP percentage chest plate. On gloves, I'm going crit rate, trying to get up to that 100%. Of course, I'm not. Boots, I'm going speed, as always. If you're having trouble not landing your debuffs, switch this over to an attack chest piece. That's a great way to bolster your accuracy. Now for me, I've got my accuracy up because I am using her with a perception set. The perception set is wonderful. It's essentially the accuracy set with a little bit of speed added to it. You can get it from the materials you farm from Faction Wars and then create it in the Forge. I use it all the time over the accuracy set just because I haven't farmed the accuracy set anywhere near as much. I don't have as much of it. So I've got better pieces in the perception set. So I have her in 4 pieces of lifesteal so that she heals while doing all of her stuff, and 2 pieces of perception gear so that she lands that accuracy. Now, important on the accuracy is you want 10 points of accuracy for every level of the dungeon you're trying to tackle. So for level 13, you want at least 130%. I barely squeak by here. And that's actually an issue. I really need to switch out this chest piece for an accuracy chest piece. So all in all, I want defense and I want accuracy. So the accuracy as high as I can go. Defense and HP as high as I can go. I'm pretty low on the defense, again, because of that chest piece. And tertiary, if I can manage the other things, I want to get that crit rate up to 100%. That's not as important. As you can see, I don't have all the jewelry on her because my barbarian jewelry is scarce. Very scarce. Now, with her being the most important champion, why don't I have her at 60 with 6 stars? The only reason, and I really mean the only reason I don't have her at level 60, 6 stars, is because as I was doing so, I pulled Stagnite, which is essentially an upgraded version of her. I use him in most everything when the affinities are good. Anytime the affinities are not good, however, I move back to Ward Maiden. So let's go ahead and take a look at her in a dungeon real quick, just to see how she performs and what she's doing for us. That is the Forge. That is not a dungeon. Don't you love it when the game decides that you clicked somewhere else? So here we are. We're going to go ahead and hop into a dragon's lair for this, and we're going to go up to level 13. It's a great level for her as the affinities are a good match. Anywhere here. Here we are. See, affinities are good. She is Force Affinity. Pulling that out to put in a War Maiden. She is a Force Affinity, which is good against the Dragon Affinity for Dragons 13. So let's get this started. Now, the key to her is that she is going to need to be just before your nuker, in this case my Galek. That's going to be our goal for her. You're going to want to buff her if you can, then do the debuff, and then nuke. That way the waves go just as fast as humanly possible. And we're going to see that here as soon as we load in. Anytime, Polarium. So here we are, Dragons 13 on full auto. I'm gonna go ahead and start out with some Cold Heart. There's the Crumbling Blast. Decreased defense on everybody, so they all get nuked by that AoE from Galek. Now we just take a little bit of time and clean up the last few here as we go forward. And the rest of this team, we've got Cold Heart for her single target damage, and the fact that if you pull a Cold Heart, it changes your game. It really does. She's on essentially every one of my teams because I got lucky enough to pull her with my absolute first Void Shard. Uncanny. Just uncanny. You can replace Cold Heart with other single target damage champions. People like Soulbound Bower. Yeah, I can really talk. Soulbound Boyer. That's a good one. Or like Gala Long Braids. People who do a lot of single target damage or can really help you out on the dragon. Now, I bring my Frozen Banshee because Frozen Banshee is a great poison layer and dragon is a really good place to have your poison layer. So as we come in here, we're at a minute. We'd be at least a minute 30, if not more, without that decreased defense. She is doing great work for us here. We talked about this in the Starting Champions video, but my Galek has actually gotten faster than my Ward Maiden, sadly, because of his increased speed that he does on himself with the Hellraiser. This is why I would much prefer someone that I could really control their speed on as an AoE nuker, because I've missed a few of the big nukes having the decrease down because of that ability. Now, of course, Coldheart is doing the majority of our damage here and just nuking the dragon down. But you can see what War Maiden is doing. She's making all of these hits that much more painful for the dragon, which means less turns the dragon's getting, less defense, and everything that I'm going to need to survive. Now, there comes a point where that's not going to be enough. You're going to have to build defense, of course. And then when you get to the end game, you're going to switch and go the other direction. Defense boots, sell. So we've got War Maiden at 109,000. Not very great, but it is a third of Galek and half as much as Coldheart. So when it comes right down to it, she's putting out a really decent amount of damage, even though I don't have her at a full 6 stars, level 60, or 100% crit rate. So she is a decent damage dealer as well. So, all in all, War Maiden is someone you should really invest in getting up to 6 stars, getting fully booked and building out. She is going to be useful for you in just about every aspect of the game. Now, why don't we come to her aesthetics? Starting off with armor, what can I say about her armor? No, seriously, what can I say about her armor? She doesn't have any. This is a really good example of where the aesthetics absolutely fail when it comes to reality. This is pure fiction, pure fantasy. In fact, I'm pretty sure War Maiden might have a lawsuit going on against, or with Red Sonja as the plaintiff. I mean, this is completely ripped off from Red Sonja. I'm probably dating myself there a bit. Go and look it up. It's a fun movie. Anyways, this is ridiculous. As a commander, I'm really glad that this champion doesn't have an individual name, but it's rather have a title, because I'm probably going to lose a dozen or 2 dozen of them in every battle I fight. They're just gonna die. And the worst part is, look at the tooling and the workmanship, the craftsmanship in that pauldron. It's absolutely beautiful. If she had some protective gear similar to that, she'd actually be a really well-developed and really well-suited champ. But she's not. It's all sex, no substance. So, for her armor, I'm going to give our Naked Barbarian no gourds. She is our premier for the no gourds. She is the Splat. Congratulations, War Maiden. At least you got something going for you in the aesthetics department. In terms of her weapons, she's got a nice blade with a blood groove down it. This is a very Conan-esque blade. And a nice axe. I mean, they are good weapons. The quillions, so the crossguard here piece of the blade, is not great, but it's suitable. It's workable. She doesn't have gauntlets, so she's going to lose fingers and her hands. But since she's going to be dead in the first couple seconds of an encounter anyways, guess you don't care. However, her weapons are serviceable. They're nice. They're well decorated. I do like them. So for her weapons, we're going to go ahead and give her a 4 gourd. At least she's got that going for her. In terms of badassitude, her fear factor, her presence on the battlefield, really comes down to her comedic value. She is going to defeat people by having them double over in laughter and fall on the ground. That's it. She's going to have no other morale impact on the battle. So she's getting our second Splat for aesthetics. So overall, on our Naked Barbarian Nymph, our Red Sonja wannabe, we're going to give her a 1 gourd overall appearance on her aesthetics. I'm sorry, War Maiden, if this were Raid Shadow Legends Swimsuit Edition, you'd be way up there. Very attractive in that regard. But in regards to actual battle ability, you're terrible. So, that's going to sum up our video for today on War Maiden, the most important free-to-play player champion in the game because of her availability to the free-to-play player. She is resource unintensive, very accessible. As always, if you enjoyed the comment, please remember to like, subscribe, and toll that bell. thank you again for joining me on Jacko's Raider Rants, and I'll see you later.